I would think that the Justice League could take down
But it's Zack Snyder, so it doesn't always have to make sense.
I'm just...
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, a weekly nerd culture podcast that discusses the culture through various segments. My name, of course, is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host, as always, that Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
It's going well, dude. How are you?
I'm really good. Looking forward to kind of getting tomorrow over with and having a nice 3-day weekend. I'm going out of town again. I'm definitely looking forward to it. We're recording this Thursday night, so I'm just trying to get through Friday at work, and then I'm leaving.
Where are you going?
Just back home, just to Louisville. So okay, cool. I went to Louisville a couple of weekends ago, and I was supposed to have my draft, and that fell through because the son of a bitch new guy that we just joined this year couldn't do it that day. So we had to push it back to the 3rd, which is the last Saturday before the season starts. Yeah. So basically, if somebody at the last minute can't draft, then we're auto drafting for them because we can't push it back anymore. And then we have another draft on Sunday for a different league. I got guilted into doing another league this year. And so that draft is on Sunday. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun weekend. Yeah.
Working in retail like I do, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's a holiday weekend. I actually close all weekend. So I'm dreading this weekend. It's my wife's birthday, and I feel super bad that I'll be closing on her birthday, which is Saturday. But in return, I get a holiday to make up for having to work on Labor Day. So next weekend will be my fun, long weekend where I'll be really looking forward to it. So you're trying to get through tomorrow. I'm trying to get through like the next 6 days. And then
so I probably shouldn't have brought that up.
No. It all comes with the territory.
Yeah, for sure. So if this is your first episode, thanks for checking us out. We like to start off each episode by kind of just checking in with each other. Tyler and I don't get to have these nerdy conversations as much as we used to. So we like to start off each episode by just checking in. We call it what we're into. So Tyler, what are you into this week?
I, on a whim last weekend, Sunday morning actually, went and saw Hell or High Water. I had heard about this movie and I knew of it. I didn't really see any trailers for it or anything. And I know that it had, I guess, like a limited release, and I didn't know when it was going to come to Evansville. We've had that discussion before that we don't really get movies like that first go around. It usually comes a few weeks later. And when we went to see Don't Breathe last weekend for our review, I hadn't realized that we got it until I saw it playing in a different theater. So I went and saw it Sunday morning, like I said, and didn't really know what to expect, but I ended up being blown away. I really, really like this movie. I think it's pretty phenomenal, actually. It's a fairly basic premise. It's basically two brothers. Their mom dies. They're trying to save their family ranch, so they resort to robbing banks to pay it off to the bank. So it's kind of like stealing from the bank and then giving it right back to the bank to keep the ranch and the family. All the while, they're being tracked by two marshals, played by Jeff Bridges, and I don't know the other guy's name, but I've seen him in other stuff.
I thought they were Texas Rangers.
Are they Rangers?
I don't know if there's a difference, to be honest with you, now that I just corrected you.
See, I went with that because I could swear in one scene somebody calls him Marshall.
Oh,
but
really?
Maybe they are Texas Rangers. I mean, I don't know that much. There's some kind of law enforcement, so sure. They're trailing them and trying to see where they're going to strike next and stop them. So, like I said, pretty fairly, I don't know, basic bank robbing premise, but it feels real. It feels like this is a real story that could actually happen, or like what a real bank robbery scheme would look like in reality, as opposed to a movie like Heat, where it's very elaborate. So the performances are fantastic. This is probably Chris Pine and Ben Foster's best roles ever that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen The Mechanic?
I haven't.
That was a joke.
Yeah, I was going to make the joke that the sequel to The Mechanic came out last week, and I've never seen The Mechanic. I'm assuming his character dies in it, which is why he's not in the sequel. But if I were Ben Foster, I'd be very happy that made this movie instead of the sequel to The Mechanic, because it's probably his best work and definitely Chris Pine's best work. I don't think I can say that it's necessarily Jeff Bridges' best work. He still knocks it out of the park like he always does.
He plays a cowboy really well.
Yeah, he does. And then you see him promoting these movies on late night talk shows, and he's back in a hippie persona kind of.
Yeah.
Like country song or playing some type of law enforcement. He does great. The environment's great. It really feels like West Texas. I'm assuming they probably shot it there, but it feels, I don't know. There's something about West Texas
it's like a whole nother world,
man. And they captured that in this movie so well. Like, a few times throughout the movie, it's like, oh yeah, everybody just has a gun. And there's a scene where after they rob one of the banks, they kind of get chased by town folk.
Yeah.
So it's
the thing that struck me the most was the scene at the gas station, where they're in a car and then this really nice car pulls up and then there's just a guy getting back on his horse. He had tied up his horse right next to the gas station. That's what kind of struck me, was like, they live on a whole different fucking planet.
Yeah, it's weird, man. But I think that this movie captures it extremely well. And the thing about this movie is it's not very long, but I wouldn't say I was on the edge of my seat the whole movie, but I was definitely intrigued the whole movie. And by the time that things start getting crazy towards the end of the movie, I was for sure on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen with these characters, because you follow both stories. You follow the brothers, and then you follow Jeff Bridges and his partner as they're trying to track him. And it's kind of hard to decipher who to root for. Like, you end up liking the brothers and you want them to keep their ranch and do what's best for their family. But at the same time, everybody loves Jeff Bridges. Everybody loves rooting for the good guy, which in this movie, he is technically the good guy. And I don't know, it's a little conflicted and you kind of want everything to work out. And I think that the way that this movie wraps up, it works out about as best it could.
Yeah.
I would probably say that this is my favorite movie so far this year.
It's up there for me. I don't know. I would have to look at my list.
Yeah, I need to look at my list as well.
I didn't mention this, but obviously I've seen it. I went and saw it last night, actually. It was kind of on a whim as well. I ran into one of my buddies at the comic book shop yesterday. He was like, hey, man, we're going to see this movie. I was like, yeah, for sure. I'll be there. So I also really, really liked it. The performances are what kind of captured me. I mean, it's a beautiful movie, but really it was the performances that really got me. I'm just going to kind of echo a lot of what you said, but the relationships were built really well. Yeah. You have these two separate relationships. And like you said, it's tough to figure out who you're going to root for. Yeah. And I think that they actually did a really good job at kind of building up the real enemy, which is the bank.
Yeah.
And so I think they did a really good job, because you want to root for both of these relationships, both of these partners. And I think that they did a really good job of kind of setting a common enemy, even though obviously the law enforcement is working for the bank, sort of.
Yeah.
But they also kind of understand what's going on, and they can kind of empathize with the brothers. Now, of course, there's a turn towards the end of the movie where obviously you don't root for one of the brothers as much. I mean, you can kind of understand where he's coming from. He's kind of taking one for the team, so to speak, but it's pretty heartbreaking at a certain point. Yeah. It definitely takes a turn where you no longer root for that guy anymore, for sure.
The thing with this movie is that there's not a lot of violence in it until a certain point. And then whenever the violence starts happening, it feels very real.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they did the violence and, what a gun would actually do to somebody if you had been shot. Like, they do it very realistically, and I think that kind of makes it tug at the heartstrings a little bit more than other movies typically do, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. There's a particular scene towards the end, right before the kind of the shit hits the fan, where something doesn't go quite as smooth as it had been earlier in the movie. And something happens, and it just kind of, it takes you back a little bit, because you didn't expect that to happen, because it hadn't been violent through the whole movie. And then all of a sudden it gets really violent really quickly, and it kind of takes you back a little bit. And I think it works, because one of the characters doesn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And so you're almost kind of seeing it through his eyes, and you kind of feel what he's feeling, which obviously works really well as an audience.
Yeah, man, it was really, really great. So what are you into?
I am into a show that I've talked about a few times. Season 3 of The Strain just started. For our new listeners out there, like I said, I've talked about it a couple of times. It's based on the Guillermo del Toro, Chuck Hogan novels of the same name, sort of. One of the novels is called The Strain. Basically, it's about an ancient race of vampires that live in secret, and one of these ancient vampires, dubbed the Master, kind of goes rogue, and he starts just spreading the disease, hence the name The Strain. These vampires are not the typical vampires. They have like these little stingers that come out of your neck, and they basically pass on these like little parasite things, and that's what changes you to, it's almost like zombie, basically. It changes you into these vampires. And I honestly think, and I think I've said this before with this show, I honestly think that it's criminally underrated. I think in a world where The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones is super popular, I think there is a place for this show because both of those shows are kind of strange in their own way. And I don't think Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead would have been as popular as they are now 20 years ago. Like nobody would have made a show about knights and dragons and then of course zombies 20 years ago. And now they're the most popular shows on television right now. Now, Game of Thrones, I'm not putting The Strain in that particular category. I think that Game of Thrones is in its own league, but I think that Strain should be talked about as one of those really great shows. I think it's better than The Walking Dead. I've had my problems with that show in the past. I reviewed the first 2 seasons on the website, our website, thenerdspodcast.com. Unfortunately, I'm just the more I think about it, the more I'm just way too busy. There's just no way I'd be able to do that again for the 3rd season. I wanted to. I actually considered maybe doing it on the YouTube channel because those don't take as long as actually like sitting down, writing it out. But it's just not going to happen. I'm just not going to have time, which is a good problem because I'm doing a lot more stand-up and I've been trying to do more for the YouTube channel recently. So it's just, there's only so much time in the day. But I will, in case you guys do want to kind of hear what I think of each episode, because I won't bring up each episode on the podcast. I will be live tweeting all the episodes, so you can kind of get like a sort of miniature review of how I feel about the episode. If you follow us at the Nerds Podcast on Twitter, I'll be live tweeting the episodes. In my first season review of this show, I made a lot of comparisons to The Walking Dead. I think there's definitely a lot of comparisons between the show. Unfortunately, especially the first season, I think The Strain kind of falls into the trap that The Walking Dead has and still is, unfortunately, falling into, where they spend way too much time and kind of get bogged down with some of the character development. There's a lot of characters on The Walking Dead. There's a lot of characters on The Strain, and sometimes they build up some of these relationships, and they're just kind of boring. And that's kind of been my problem. Most of my problems with Walking Dead kind of revolve around that. Season 2 luckily kind of got away from that. However, there was a storyline, a story arc between these two characters, one Fett and the other one Dutch, and the man and woman, and there's a romance. And I really like Fett as a character, and I fucking can't stand Dutch. I think she's the worst character on the show. And the fact that they kept bringing a really fun, interesting character down to kind of her level and just really making it boring, kind of bummed me out the second season. Luckily, the payoff to that story arc was really awesome. It actually ended up being one of my favorite episodes of the second season. So that was really cool. So unlike The Walking Dead, where a lot of that stuff doesn't really pay off the way I wanted to, even though they did, I think, waste a little bit of too much time with the Fett and Dutch relationship, I did like how it paid off. The first episode of season 3 just premiered last Sunday, so I live tweeted that. It started off kind of slow, but by the time it picked up steam, it was really good. I like the fact that it seems like they're starting to have the strain spread, but it started in New York City and the show's focused on New York City. So I like that, but I liked how they kind of showed you that it is spreading, so it's not contained within New York, because it would be impossible to contain something like this. So I do like that they're kind of talking about other places getting infected as well. I really liked the end. There was this really cool scene in a church with Fett, who has gotten away from Dutch completely, which is I'm really excited for. I think he's an awesome character, and I just really like the way at least the first episode is his story arc is going in this season. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, The Strain is a show that kind of slipped through the cracks with me. I remember I wanted to just binge it after season 1 finished, and I never got around to it, and you blink and now they're starting season 3. So
yeah.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility where I could sit down and watch seasons 1 and 2 pretty quickly, because I think they're 10 to 12 episode seasons.
I want to say that they're 13, and if I remember correctly, season 3 is only going to be 10 episodes.
And it's going to be wrapping up, right? I don't think that it's been, or is it going to?
There's 3 books. I've only read the first 2, and I want to say that season 2 ended somewhat close to the end of book 2. Honestly, I don't know how well this show is doing as far as ratings are concerned.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if season 3 doesn't do any better, that they kind of wrap it up and this is the last season, which would be a shame because, like I said, I really enjoy the show.
Yeah, it's something that I definitely plan on watching. It's just got to find the time to do it, I guess.
For sure.
All right, you ready for some comics?
Yep. Tyler and I read a ton of comics each week, and we like to highlight 1 or 2. So what'd you read this week?
Thank God for my wallet. This week was a light week as far as number of issues I had to buy at the comic book store. I hesitantly added a new book to the list of books that I do read. It is the new ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book. It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Universe.
Yep.
The way that IDW kind of built it was that the fans have been clamoring for another ongoing TMNT series to kind of coexist with the main series that has been going on for quite a while. I believe issue 61 just came out a couple weeks ago, and they're delivering with that. So I would say with the main run of TMNT is something that I've really dropped the ball on. And you're probably going to judge me for this, but I buy every issue of that comic, and I've not read a single one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I am. It's funny that you say that. I'm not trying to hijack your comic segment, but every time, because I always do the new comic book day purchase videos every week, and it seems like the last 4 or 5 videos that TMNT have come out, I'm just like, I'm not caught up, so I really can't talk. And so I promised our viewers, our YouTube viewers, that by next issue I would be completely caught up. So I've just been reading a shit ton of TMNT.
Really?
But yeah, to buy 62 or 61 issues and not have read a single one.
I got to rephrase that. I haven't bought all 61. I think I jumped in around 20.
Okay.
20 or 21, which I mean is still not a ton better, but
that's actually where I jumped in as well. And then I've just backtracked and got all of them.
Yeah. So I bought that wanting to just jump into TMNT, and I jumped in on a new arc, and I never read it, and I've kept collecting it because I don't know. After, it's gonna seem kind of silly, but I mean, obviously we both love TMNT, but after meeting Kevin Eastman at PopCon and that just kind of being a big moment, I want to support what he does, and anything he does with TMNT, especially after what are they? We coming up on 40 years? Is that right?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, the cartoon started in 87, so that'll be about 30 years. But
the early 80s, so I mean, probably 35 years.
Yeah.
So he's been doing this for a while. But like I said, this is a new ongoing run, so I figure I'm not keeping up very well with the main run. Maybe starting fresh on a new run, I can keep up with this one.
Okay.
And have this be the TMNT series that I read. And I bought this book not necessarily expecting it to be a new universe per se, but I did expect it to stand on its own. I didn't really expect it to necessarily be a tie-in to the main run. You would think when you start a new
I kind of figured that's what it was going to be.
That is what it is, but that's not what I thought it would be. I thought that it would be something that stood on its own, just because why would you have two interchanging comics like that?
DC does that shit all the time.
Yeah, like Batman and Detective Comics, but TMNT Universe and then TMNT, I don't know. It's confusing to me. So I was reading this comic and I was a little confused with a couple of the plot points. I didn't realize Shredder's dead and Krang's been taken care of. And it seems like the big villains that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have fought over the years are kind of, they've been dispatched. But that being said, like, it does tie into the plot points of that main story quite a bit. And so there were a few times I had to Google stuff to see what was going on. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I read detective, like you were saying with Batman or DC, I read Detective Comics and I read the Batman comic.
And don't get me wrong, Marvel does it too.
Yeah. I was just hoping to jump onto some fresh new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stories. And it seems like it's more just like of a side, like the side chick to the main story. So this book has a dark tone to it, possibly even a little too dark for my taste when it comes to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it's definitely offset by some of the humor that was in this first issue. Donnie and Mikey have always kind of been the comic relief, and they are in this issue as well. It opens up with the turtles on a roof, and Mikey and Donnie are fighting about whose weapon is better, and it's a really funny conversation and something that is one of the main reasons I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so much. So the story does introduce who I believe is a new villain, and she's not been fleshed out at all. You don't know anything about her yet, but again, it's just been one issue, so I'm sure that will flesh out over the next few issues. I'm going to definitely stick with this book. I think I can get past some of the stuff that I'm not in the know about, since I haven't read that main run, to enjoy what they're doing in this run. And I don't know, the art's beautiful. I actually like the artwork in this comic more than the main run.
Yeah, they had, I think it was like the first like 8 or 9, maybe even 10 issues they had. I'm not going to know their names, but they had one guy or woman, I don't even know, do the artwork, and I really liked it. It was a little bit more gritty, and then they changed it for whatever reason, and I just not crazy about it.
Yeah,
I think they've actually changed it since then too.
I would say the artwork in this and TMNT Universe is more vibrant.
Yeah,
like it's still dark, and it's still kind of, you can tell that it's a blood relative of the main run, but I think the artwork's more fleshed out, which I appreciate more. So I'm going to stick with it. And maybe it will intrigue me to go back and read 40 issues of comics that I've never read. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be reading TMNT again. All
right, cool, man. It was also a light week for me as well. I did not get TMNT Universe just because I am so far behind. Not quite as behind as you are, Tyler, but I am a little bit behind on the main TMNT, so I just didn't want to start another one. And I was pretty sure that it was a kind of companion series, and I'm already reading the main series, so I didn't feel necessary to read that one. There was one comic that kind of stood out as far as really looking forward to it this week, and that's Han Solo #3. So that's obviously going to be the book that I'm going to talk about. I've really enjoyed these Star Wars books. I was kind of a little nervous when they started it, just because, I mean, we know what happens, so it's kind of hard, especially with the main Star Wars book pinning it in between 2 different movies. It's really kind of hard to do anything creative with that. But I think they've done a really good job, mostly because I think that they kind of, especially with the particular like character miniseries, they take the character's strengths, the things that they do the best, and they also kind of use this really big universe that they've created and just kind of use that to their advantage. And I think they do that really well in this Han Solo book, because some of the favorite parts of the character for me is him and Chewie kind of getting into the crazy shenanigans and getting out of it and flying the Falcon, that's all this book is. And I think it's really cool that they used this big universe to create this race called the Dragon Void, I think is what it's called. And there's this layer of like espionage that kind of adds a little bit of flavor to the story. It's a fairly basic story. I mean, you kind of expect when you read a Han Solo miniseries that he would be flying the Falcon with Chewie. I mean, all that stuff is there. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't, but it's just really fun. Like I kind of forgive that it's pretty basic storytelling just because it is so fun. I just really like this book. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, even though I am a huge fan of the character. I just wasn't sure what else they could do with him, and I just really enjoy it.
Have you read all of the Star Wars books they've put out then? I know, except for like they recently did a comic version of The Force Awakens, which I don't think either of us would be interested in, but as far as these go,
I've gotten most of them. I haven't read all of them, but I've gotten like the Lando one, but I haven't read all of them. The Chewie one is the same. I've read a couple of them, but I haven't read all of them. I didn't get was it Obi-Wan and what was that one?
Like there's an Obi-Wan and Anakin one from
yeah. I didn't get that one. I didn't get there's another one.
Princess Leia, did you get that one?
I have that one, but I haven't read it.
Okay.
Because I had Mark Wade sign it when we were at Indie PopCon. I can't think of the other ones, but yeah, I get most of them. Let's just say that. I'm not going to sit here and try to list the rest of them off, but yeah, I get most of them.
Okay, I just stuck to Star Wars and Darth Vader. Those are the only ones I was doing.
Okay, cool.
I haven't been roped into the other ones. I think the Han Solo one was the most tempting, but I didn't want to add another Star Wars comic because I have a hard time keeping up with the other two as it is, even though Darth Vader's over now.
It will be over next month.
Oh, is it still got one more issue?
Yeah, it's only at 24.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's 25 that they're stopping on.
All right, cool, man. Our next segment is just plainly called Nerd News. Tyler compiles all the big nerd news stories each week, and we just discuss them. So what's nerd news this week?
I don't know if you've been watching Geeking Out or not.
I really want to, but I just haven't been.
I really like it. It's obviously we're both huge Kevin Smith fans and are pretty much marks for all the stuff that he does. And I think him and Greg Gumberg have a good chemistry, so it's kind of a cool little show, and they've had some cool guests on. This past week, they had Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese. Is that right? Okay, the guys who they wrote Zombieland and they wrote Deadpool. So most of the interview was them talking about Deadpool and the process of making Deadpool with Greg and Kevin. But at one point, they revealed that they're currently working, and it was like this is a exclusive for you guys. We're writing Zombieland 2 right now. We actually have a meeting with Woody Harrelson tomorrow to kind of go over what we're thinking, and the whole cast is pretty excited about coming back. So this is a movie that's been, it seems like, talked about since the first one came out, and they've just never got the sequel rolling. They tried the Amazon show, and that didn't get picked up after I never
watched it, but it looked fucking terrible.
Well, the way Amazon does it is you do the pilot and it didn't even get past voting. And you would think that Zombieland, like, people know that, people would vote for that, but it must have been pretty bad if it didn't get made into a
garbage
series. So it's kind of cool that they're doing the movie again. I mean, I think I speak for both of us that we both really like Zombieland quite a bit. Those guys are genius. So hopefully they can do something fresh with the zombie genre and even with that universe that they created.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. I like it a lot. I'm afraid that they've kind of overstayed their welcome a little bit. You need to hit that soon after the first movie. Like, I don't know if people are really clamoring for it like they used to.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of funny though. It in a coincidence, like this week I was at work and I'm human resources for a retail company. So I talked to a lot of my team members and it's a big part of my job. And I was talking to a team member about movies and asked her what her favorite movie was. And it's
The Dark Knight.
No, she's like a 19-year-old girl. I'm like, she's going to say something like, I don't know, what do 19-year-old girls like? Mean Girls or some shit? And she said,
that's way too.
I don't know, man. And she said Zombieland. And it took me back a little bit. So I think that the audience is still there for sure. But I'm with you as well. You don't waste any more time because it's been, like 6 years at this point, 5 or 6 years?
And I mean, I get it because they just wrote Deadpool and that was a huge success. But I don't know if a lot of people know that that's the same people.
I'm sure they don't. Most the casual moviegoer would. But now you get to put Zombieland 2 from the writers of Deadpool.
Sure.
Like anything that they do going forward is going to have from the writers of Deadpool on it, and it's going to make a decent amount of money, I'd assume.
For sure.
All right. So Ben Affleck rarely tweets or does anything on social media. He has various social media accounts, and he puts stuff up every so often, but it's not a constant thing. This week, out of nowhere, he just tweeted a video with no caption or anything. It's a video of Deathstroke. And I don't know. He's not doing really a whole lot. It's more of just like the costume and he's turning around and that's it. Like there's been a lot of chatter about it. People are like, is he in Justice League or is this for the Batman solo movie or what the hell is going on? And I don't think there's any real answer out there yet. I think most sites are speculating that means that Deathstroke will be one of the main villains in the standalone Batman movie that Ben Affleck is making with Jeff Johns. But again, there's been no confirmation or anything. I will say that Deathstroke looks pretty badass in that video. It's so fucking random.
Yeah. I would assume that he's teasing something for Justice League because that solo Batman movie is, I mean, they're still working on Justice League.
Yeah, they're filming Justice League now. They don't have a release date for the Batman movie. So,
yeah, but as far as I know, it's still pretty much up in the air.
Unless they're teasing Deathstroke and Justice League to come back for the Batman movie. I mean, I would assume that the Justice League movie is going to be more extraterrestrial in its threat.
Yeah.
So what does Deathstroke have to do with that? You know, like I would think that the Justice League could take down.
But it's Zack Snyder, so it doesn't always have to make sense.
I'm just thinking the Justice League would probably take down a Deathstroke pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But honestly, as cool as Deathstroke looks, and I think that Deathstroke is a cool character, I don't really want to see a Batman versus Deathstroke movie. I feel like I played that in Arkham Origins more so. And they did really cool stuff in that game with the Deathstroke character. I was really hoping for like an Arkham Asylum type thing. Like it had been rumored that there would be a lot of Batman's Rogue Gallery in the standalone movie, and it might even take place in the Asylum, which is something that really piqued my interest. So I don't necessarily need to see a Deathstroke Batman movie, but it looked cool, so we'll see.
Yeah, it did definitely look cool.
Yeah. Jon Favreau will be in Spider-Man Homecoming. It just broke probably within the last half hour right before we started recording. Not a huge deal. He's going to be playing Happy Hogan, obviously. Yeah. It's kind of cool that he's coming back and he can pop in and out. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, like in this movie, I can't imagine he'll have a very big role, but it's cool. He gets to collect some royalties out of it because this movie is going to make a shit ton of money, which is probably his one of his main reasons for doing it. But
for sure,
it's cool that Marvel has this huge universe where characters that we've seen for the last almost 10 years now can pop in and out and not have to do a whole lot, but still kind of who they are and what they're doing.
And it makes sense because that's kind of how they brought Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War. So it kind of makes sense that somebody with ties to Iron Man would be in the Spider-Man movie, kind of back and forth.
I hope that both he and Robert Downey Jr. don't have a substantial role in this movie.
Yeah.
I'd rather see, and it will be mostly Spider-Man, but I don't need to see, a half hour of Robert Downey Jr. Like have him come in and kind of wrap things up from where we last saw those characters in Civil War. And then let's see the Spider-Man adventure. That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
For sure.
All right, last one. On a bit of a sad note, this past week, Gene Wilder passed away. So I just thought I'd bring it up, ask you your favorite Gene Wilder movie.
It's tough because, I mean, you think of all the good movies that he did, like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles. I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, and the fact that they collaborated so well, it's fantastic. I also, of course, his performance in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was amazing. It's tough. It's not like it came out of nowhere. I mean, he'd been sick for a little bit, and you kind of knew that it was going to come. It sucks because I did love him in Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, I believe he had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I was watching some interviews that he had done over the years, and I was curious what his last interview was. And the most recent one I could find was from 2013. And you could even tell in that video that he wasn't in the best of health. Yeah. So that was... really,
and he did the producers too. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that one too.
For me, I'll always remember him as Willy Wonka. My dad showed me Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when I was really young, and
that's not really a kid's movie.
No, there's definitely some darker elements in there for sure. And I remember it never sat with me really well whenever I was little because it's not like this happy story. Like a lot of kids probably die.
Yeah,
I always remember that bothered me. I'm like, did the kids die or were they okay?
Yeah,
and you never find out in the book. Or even in the remake that Tim Burton did, you find out that the kids are okay. You see them like walking away from the factory at the end, but you don't have that scene. In Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, and I was always left hanging whenever I was younger. But yeah, it was really sad. It was kind of cool to see Mel Brooks though this week. He was on Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's getting up there as well, but he was very vibrant on that show. So it was kind of cool to see him and hear him tell some stories about Gene Wilder as well. But yeah, it's a shame that some of the people that we were most familiar with in our childhood are starting to go because we're getting older and they're getting older. So
yeah, for sure. It's a shame.
All right, man. That is what I have for Nerd News.
All right, cool. So our next segment is just kind of our main topic. It changes from episode to episode. We've been doing a lot of movie reviews. We're going to switch it up a little bit. We're still going to do a review, but Tyler and I are big gamers, and so we thought we would kind of dip our toes into reviewing a game. I don't think we've ever done this on the episode. Really? I mean, we've talked about games before. We both love the Arkham games, and we're just big gamers, so we've talked about games. I think mostly we saved it for like what we're into, and I don't think we've ever actually officially reviewed a video game before, so it's going to be a little bit interesting. We're still going to kind of do it the same way that we do movies and TVs. Obviously, we're not going to do like story and performances and stuff like that. We're still going to have our segments. We're still going to break it down that way, but obviously we're going to change up the categories a little bit. As far as Madden's concerned, for any new listeners that don't know me personally, I love these games. I'm kind of a sucker. I buy it every year, so it's going to be kind of hard for me to be objective. I grew up on these games. I don't remember the last time I didn't get it every year. I'm kind of the Madden defender because I do hear people kind of bash it sometimes. Like these games are just roster updates each year, and some years are better than others. I will give you guys that, but I think that especially in the last few years, they've gotten really good. I typically take off at least the release date from work to just to have a whole day to play it. Last year, I actually took off the whole week, but I had a couple of stand-up shows as I was doing as well. So this year, I only took the first 2 days off. So I took that Tuesday and Wednesday off. I reviewed the last 2 games on our website, thenerdspodcast.com, but like I talked about with the strain, I was just not going to have time to do that this year. Luckily, Tyler got it, which I didn't really know he played Madden all that much, but he got it this year. So I was like, oh, it'll be kind of fun to change it up a little bit. Instead of doing a movie this week, we'll just review Madden. So again, I think this is going to be interesting because I don't think we've ever done a video game before.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know you didn't realize I played Madden. I used to play it quite a bit.
I knew you played it, but I didn't know.
It's become more of a biannual type thing for me. So whereas you get into it every year, I typically take a year off because I enjoy these games, but I lean more towards the roster update side of things.
Sure.
And it just depends on the year. It depends on if I'm playing something else that I'll put before it or not. Like last year, Arkham Knight, I believe, came out in June or July. So I was probably still messing around with that by the time Madden came around in August.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my opinion on it. I do appreciate, and we'll get into it, the things that they add year to year, but I'm definitely more of a biannual type person.
Yeah, and I still haven't got my invite for us to play online.
No, that's not going to happen.
Tyler's scared. But like I said, we're going to kind of break it down into segments like we do our TV and movie reviews. We'll start with broad strokes. So general overview, how'd you feel about Madden 17? Or do you want me to go first?
No, so my first note that I took under broad strokes is not going to be something that you're going to like, but it's another Madden game. So you make an event out of these games. I enjoy them myself, but I don't really immerse myself in them like you do. I think that they try really hard every year to differentiate and be able to say, like, here's the new things we've added. Here's how we're justifying your $60. But I found that the stuff that they try adding extra is the stuff that I generally don't like messing with.
Yeah.
I just go into this game knowing what I'm getting every year. And if I have to pay $60 for a roster update, if that's the case, then, you know, by the time that next August comes around, I'm willing to do it. So it's definitely a fun game. Playing the game whets my appetite for football, and that's
for sure
really the mindset I'm getting into this time of year, is getting excited for the NFL and college football season. So this game does its part in what I want it to do in getting me in that mindset. Like, it's a lot of fun, but in 4 months, I don't know that I'll be playing it very much anymore.
Yeah, I think that for somebody that buys it every year, I do notice things. Yes, I can agree that sometimes they're not worth $60, and I agree with that. But I like the fact that they kind of pick certain things, and because they can't fix everything. it's not possible to fix everything in the amount of time that they have. So I am fairly realistic when it comes to stuff like that. And I like the fact that they usually pick something or a couple of things each year, and they're like, we're going to focus on fixing that because we fixed this other thing last year and now we're set there, and we're going to fix something else this year. And last year, I thought it was really cool that they focused a lot on the passing game, which is obviously, if you watch the NFL, the game is evolving and is becoming much more of a passing league. So it makes sense that they were kind of focused on that. And I talked a lot about how, not just in my review, but I believe I brought this up on the podcast when it was first came out, was that they added more control, more mechanics as far as receivers. Like you could toss a ball up and a bigger receiver could kind of go up there and get it, which happens a ton in NFL because these guys are crazy athletes. And so they don't really get open per se in the game. It's just the quarterback just tosses it up there and athletes just go up there and make a play. And so I appreciated that they added that last year. And so I just think that they generally just pick one thing or a couple of things and focus on that. And if you buy it each year, you kind of notice some of those little things. Yeah, sometimes they're not worth $60 and sometimes they work better than others. Like I remember one year they tried this weird thing where if the quarterback had good awareness, like stat, they had like these really big cones. And it was just kind of like their vision, and you could change where the cone was looking, and it was super confusing, and it sucked. It was stupid, and they like scrapped it after 1 year, and it just didn't work. Some of the things that they change are not great, but the last couple of years, some of the things that they have worked on have really helped out. And I like how football's evolving as a game, and I appreciate that Madden is doing it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first little segment that we're going to do is gameplay. So we're going to break it down just like we do our movie and TV reviews. So our first segment is going to be gameplay. So how do you feel like Madden played?
I mean, it's fun. I like I said in my broad strokes, I know that they've added things to make it feel different, but not having played this game in 2 years, it feels pretty much how I remember it feeling. I can definitely tell that they've added things, especially when you're running or, like you said, throwing a ball up and fighting for it. They've added new things, but at its core, it's still Madden. So it's still fun. It's fun to play as your favorite team and go out there. And I do appreciate the things that they've added in the 2 years that I've missed. I will say that it seems more difficult than I remember it being, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I like that.
It's more realistic. Like I play in the game, I remember the way I used to play was just every offensive play was a pass play, and 9 out of 10 times a Hail Mary was caught by my team, and it was just always a blowout. And I will say this time around, even facing the AI, it seems like it's been more difficult to win games. So I really do like that. It's forcing me to be more strategic. Yeah. And the more that I put into the game, the more that I get out of it. So I think that Madden 17 is definitely one of the best Madden games I played. I mean, obviously it's the most recent, but it's making me do more, which is a good thing for this type of game.
Yeah, and I think I have a little bit different perspective. Like I said, I play these games all the time, and it's hard for me to, and I know this may not be the best for the review itself because we're talking about this particular game, but I like how it's changed over the course of time. Like it was really hard, like 10 years ago, I very rarely called pass plays like slants or crosses or posts or anything like that. You had to be wide open for me to throw it to you because it was so hard to execute those plays. But I think over the course of the last 10 years, they've made that more precise, and they've kind of picked up where they left off. They fine-tuned it a little bit this year as well. Those passing routes are what I call all the time now because it is so precise. It's much more realistic. Like I said, the thing that I think that they really picked this year, one of the things that I talked about earlier is they kind of pick a couple of things each year. One thing that they picked, and I'm really happy that they did, was the run game. I really like playing, when I do play online, I really like playing more realistically. Like, I will run the ball. Most of the douchebags that you play online just want to chuck it all over the place. But I like to play somewhat realistically. Plus, nobody expects you to run online because nobody does. So that kind of catches people off guard a few times. But it's been a struggle the past couple of years because the blocking, the AI and the blocking weren't that, like, they weren't blocking the people that realistically you would think that they would block. They would go to the second level and you'd have a guy standing right in front of you and you'd be like, why the fuck didn't you block that guy? And so the blocking wasn't the best. And I think they've kind of fine tuned that a little bit. Plus the running is a little bit easier. Like you run off your blocks a little bit easier. Like I felt like the last couple of games, you would run into your own blockers a lot and you would fall down. And it's like, it could have been a 5 or 6 yard gain and it was a 2 yard gain because you got good blocking. If you could have gone through that hole, I know last year they made it, there's a button where you could press it. You can kind of go skinny a little bit. Your running back would get a little bit smaller to fit through those tight holes. I had to giggle, but, and so that was kind of cool. And they kind of built on that a little bit. I did like that they gave people some special moves. I mean, they always had special moves, but the fact that, like, Gurley, if he hurdles over somebody, because that's something that he's known for, he has a better chance of executing that better. Like the bigger backs have better chance of executing a truck, and more agile back like Jamal Charles or somebody has a better chance. He's not going to truck you over. He's going to kind of spin around you or something like that. Yeah. So I like that they kind of specialized it a little bit more this year. I do like the fact that they put play the moments as well. Where if you're not familiar, it's basically they put something in there called Super Sim about 5-6 years ago, I think, where you could jump to the next possession, or you could just play offense, or you could just play defense, which is helpful because especially when you're playing a franchise, you don't necessarily have to play every single play of every game. So it's kind of nice. This year they play the big moments or the key moments. I don't remember what they call it. And it will literally just super sim until you get to like a big third down or a red zone or something like that. And so I appreciate that because they turn a 60-minute game into like a 20-minute game. And when you're playing an entire franchise, an entire season, that helps because it kind of wears you down by the end of the season.
I mean, I appreciate that exists. But I don't know. I think that I'm the opposite of you. I would just rather play every down.
Okay.
So in my franchise, and I think we'll get into this when we get into game modes, but I've played every game so far, every down, just because I want to be in control too much, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't like playing defense. Like, I'll play it every once in a while. I'll play it a couple of series a game. But for the most part, I don't enjoy playing defense as much as I enjoy playing offense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Well, you mentioned the game mode, so that's my next little segment. So we'll just go right into it. There's 3 major game modes as far as I'm concerned. There's franchise, there's Madden Ultimate Team, and there's Draft Champions. For me, my bread and butter is franchise. I don't really mess around with the Ultimate Team and Draft Champions too much, so I get to those a little bit later. But I love franchise. I love taking a bad team and kind of building it up in a couple of years and making it a good team through the draft and trades and stuff like that, and free agents and whatnot. I'm just kind of a nerd like that. Like, I love the trading and all that good stuff. People would, the last couple of years, would always do the joke when I would say that, well, why don't you just play with the Bears? Because I'm a big Bears fan, because the Bears are bad. That's funny. But honestly, like, I always tell them, and I'm going to sound super pathetic when I say this, but I'm just too attached to them. Yeah. Like, as a team, like, I can't start a franchise with the Bears because I think all of them are good. And it's like, I don't want to, with the salary cap, you have to like let people go. And I just can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. I can't play with the Bears. I'm kind of bummed the last couple of years. They've kind of forgotten about the franchise mode. They haven't done a ton to make it better. And I love that this is, along with the running game that I mentioned last segment, this is one of the things that they kind of focused on this year. They kind of built up the franchise a little bit more in this game. This is the game mode that I play the most. So I was really excited for that. And it's just like they didn't do a ton with it. They kind of just fine-tuned everything. They made it a little bit easier, kind of streamlined everything. Before, some of these processes like the player progression and some of the training each week was a little bit more tedious, and so they kind of just streamlined it. I like the fact that they added a practice squad. I think that's really cool. I'm a huge NFL fan, obviously, so big hardcore NFL fans know that each team has a practice squad. And so I like the fact that during the course of a season, and football is a physical sport, so you're going to have injuries. So it's like I was constantly in past games like cutting people, and then after that guy was fine again, I had to cut the other guy and re-sign this, and I was just kind of going back and forth. So I like the fact that there's a practice squad and you can kind of demote and promote people as injuries come. So I really like that. I will say that why add a practice squad and not add like IR designated to return or a pup list, or there's so many other things that they could have added that they didn't. So I'm kind of bummed. And I don't think that either one of those things would be that hard to add. Yeah. So I am happy that they added practice squad, but I think they kind of missed an opportunity with a couple other things. Again, I like to play the key moments. I think it works really well in franchise because unlike Tyler, sometimes I get tired of playing every single down sometimes, and I kind of want to, especially when I'm building up a bad team, it's like I know that this team is not that good right now. I want to get to the draft because I have 2 first-round picks next year or something like that. So I like playing the key moments because that's just going to get me quicker through the season.
Yeah, this is the first year I've actually ever played franchise. Like I've mentioned, I've always just been kind of like a casual Madden player. So typically I get it and I just play quick play games or play online with somebody or just, that kind of stuff. I've never really gotten into the other modes. So that being said, I'm really enjoying franchise quite a bit. Playing the season and playing every down, like I was said I do, it makes me feel very invested in my team, very invested in each game. And the practices, I think, are fantastic as well. I've watched football for a very long time, but I've never really learned a lot about the strategy involved with football. I never actually played myself. So that being said, especially on the defensive side of things, I'm really actually learning a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
About certain coverages and certain formations and what's good against this and what's good against that. And I think that the whole practice side of things, while it's kind of tedious to have to do it for each game, I guess you don't have to, but it's beneficial to. I don't know. I'm learning a lot by doing it, and I think it's making me honestly a better Madden player as well.
Oh yeah, it for sure makes you a better Madden player, but it also just makes you a better football watcher. Like when you watch the actual games, I've noticed, they're in cover 3 or they're in cover 4 when I'm watching it. I'm like, I don't know what the offense is calling, but hopefully they call verticals or something like that in this particular situation. And it definitely you become a better NFL fan by playing Madden.
Oh, absolutely.
So the last 2 game modes, we won't really touch a ton about them, but they are key game modes. So I figured we definitely want to mention them. Is Ultimate Team and Draft Champions. Like I said, I don't play either one of these too much. I'm guessing that you don't either.
No, which one of those involves you having, you don't have to, but involves the option to buy add-ons?
It's the Ultimate Team. Basically what the Ultimate Team is, you collect these cards. Each card is a player and it's a certain skill level and position and everything. And so basically you want to build a team, and the better your team is, the better you play, the more coins you get. The more coins you get, the more packs you get to open. Now, of course, there's micro transactions where you can buy coins and buy packs and stuff like that. That's where the spending money comes in. And obviously EA has been kind of building up the Ultimate Team because they want your money. Obviously the $60 apparently is not good enough for them.
And this is part of the reason why EA catches a bunch of shit from the online community as well, because it's not just Madden, it's most of the games EA puts out. There's in-game purchases like that. And to me, that's more of a game, something you would find on a game you play on your smartphone. I don't think that there's any place for it in a console game. Like obviously there's downloadable content, and I keep that separate. But I'm not going to play a game like a version where I need to spend money to succeed in it.
Yeah, and it kind of bums me out because a lot of times, like, I'll look into, because I am a huge Madden fan, I'll look into like, getting the deluxe edition. usually all that means is you just get a bunch of coins. You just pay extra money to get some coins for Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
And I don't play Ultimate Team, so I don't even do that. Like, I could, as a collector, be like, oh yeah, I got the deluxe edition, but it doesn't fucking do me any good because I don't play Ultimate Team. Draft Champions is somewhat similar. I actually prefer it between the two if I had to pick, because it feels a little bit more like fantasy football, because they fill out your roster, because obviously you have 50 some players on your team. You fill out your roster, but then there's 15 rounds, and each round it randomly selects 3 cards, and you pick between those 3 cards. So basically what it's doing is you get to build your team the way that you play the game. If you pass a lot, obviously you would want a good offensive line, good quarterback, and good wide receivers. If you're a running team, you would want good offensive line and good running back, but you could kind of skimp on the quarterback and the wide receiver. So it's kind of cool that you kind of pick your team that way. And so I've done a few drafts. It's fun. It's not as fun as fantasy football, even though EA kind of bills it as their fantasy football thing that they have. It's fun. I prefer it over Ultimate Team. There aren't any microtransactions as far as I know, so that's good. So I would definitely suggest giving it a shot. It is fun, but I much prefer franchise mode to either one of those.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, so the next couple of segments aren't going to be very long. The first one, I kind of combined graphics and sound real quick. Graphics, I think we're getting to the point very similar to how we talk about animation when we review movies. It's getting to the point where graphics is just ridiculously good, especially on these new generation consoles. Madden continues to kind of set the standard. In a sport where you don't really get to see their faces all that much, I'm constantly surprised that I can look at that player and know exactly who that player is by just looking at their face. Like, it's ridiculous how realistic it is. I do think that it's funny sometimes that the game does glitch every once in a while, especially like, let's say you score a touchdown and they start celebrating. Sometimes they'll take their celebration a little bit too far and they like go into the, like, walk through a wall and like are celebrating in the stands. It's just like a little like graphics glitch, but it's a video game. So you kind of, you forgive that. But other than that, it looks beautiful. You can see the grass on the field. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, by reason, it would probably be the best Madden's ever looked. And you can say that each year that a new one comes out. And yeah, you definitely feel immersed in the experience due to the graphics.
As far as the sound's concerned, I really kind of just mean the play-by-play announcers.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. These are 2 new guys, Brandon Guyton and Charles Davis, who is an ex-player. Brandon Guyton, really kind of the reason I wanted to bring this part up is he used to call Georgia Tech games. Oh, yeah. And for those that don't know me, I am a diehard Georgia Tech fan. And so I thought it was so cool that he was going to basically taking one of my favorite they are my favorite college team, and then bringing it to another thing that I love, Madden. I thought that was awesome. I'm really digging it. I saw a video of kind of how they filmed or how they recorded the audio, and they were actually sitting across from each other, like we're sitting across from each other right now. And I thought that was kind of cool because most like voiceover, like acting and stuff, they just do it in a sound room individually. So I thought that was really cool that they were actually sitting across from each other while they were recording at least some of it.
Yeah, I think the play-by-play is fantastic. I turned it on today, and there was an update for commentary. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming, so correct me if I'm wrong, they'll update the commentary to coincide with kind of where we're at in the season.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I haven't had that update yet.
I was playing an exhibition game whenever I first got it, and they were talking about how there were preseason games going on, and this person did this in preseason.
Oh, really? That's cool. I haven't updated it yet today.
So I could be off base. I could be misinterpreting it, but I want to say that they're adding updates to kind of coincide with the season, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So I've been really impressed with that.
The one thing I just want to put in with sound before we move on is the soundtrack is god awful.
Oh yeah, fuck, man. I don't even understand. Like, who are they trying to, like, do they not know what I mean, I guess we're typically not their core audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really, really fucking
It
bad.
goes from like rap music to bad country.
Yeah.
And
it was like that last year too. I guess there's something with like Spotify or maybe Pandora where you can change the soundtrack, something like that. But I just haven't.
Maybe I should mess with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have a Spotify account, but I mean, Pandora, even anything would be better. And it's usually just background noise whenever you're navigating the menus or prepping stuff for your franchise. But every once in a while, I'll just start listening to it, and
it's really, really bad.
They
I can't decide which was worse, last year's, which was awful, or this year's. They're both really bad. At least last year, there was a couple of songs that I could at least stand. I didn't really like, but I could stand. So I think this year is a lot worse.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
All right, so the last quick little segment is replay value. I think it's important to kind of talk about replay value when you talk about a video game. I love playing Madden. I think Madden 16, I didn't stop playing it until like 3 months ago. I was probably the last person still playing that game. So I love these games. I think this game, as of right now, has a really high replay value. I think I'll be playing it for months now, especially at least through the regular season as far as the football season is concerned.
I would say with me, it's going to have a lot more replay value than past Madden games have had because, like I said, I've never messed with the franchise before. So now I'm invested in this team I'm building, and I think that will hold my attention a lot longer than past games have. That being said, I think that whenever football starts to wind down this year or into the playoffs next year, or a different game comes out, I'll probably end up setting this to the side and never picking it up again, because that's what I've typically done with past Madden games. So that's probably what it's going to look like for me, shelf life wise. I
forgot to ask who you're playing as.
The Colts.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know. This is my first franchise ever, so play the team that you root for is what I kind of reasoned. Who do you typically pick when you say you want to take bad teams? And
last year I played a lot with the 49ers franchise mode, and then this year I picked the Dolphins. I like kind of athletic quarterbacks, so Ryan Tannehill, even though he's garbage, I like playing the option, like kind of the spread option type of.
As far as like the trading players goes, could you potentially at some point trade Ryan Tannehill away and get a better quarterback? Or are like the big stars kind of set?
I mean, I could trade anybody that I wanted to, but I would have to give up.
Yeah.
I mean, the team has to accept it, so I would have to give up a lot to get. I mean, let's just say I wanted to trade for, I wouldn't ever
Tom Brady. Say Tom
Brady. Okay. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers, but I would never trade for him because fuck the Packers. Tom Brady, I mean, I would probably have to give up at least Ryan Tannehill, at least one first round pick, I would think, at least to get Tom Brady.
Okay. I was just curious.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can trade, but the other team has to accept it.
Yeah.
You can't just give them garbage.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. So last but not least, let's go ahead and just give it star rating.
I'm going to do 3.5.
Okay. I actually went back last year. I gave on our website, I gave it Madden 16 4.5 because I really dug the fact that they added the whole aggressive catch and run after the catch and stuff with wide receivers. I thought that was really cool. I'm not going to go quite that high this year. I'm going to go with 4 stars.
Okay, cool.
I like that they fixed a few things. They didn't fix as much as they did last year. So I'm going to just go with 4 stars this year.
All right, man. Perfect.
All right. So our last segment is just plainly called Nerd Favorite. Tyler and I take turns kind of asking a really nerdy question, what your favorite blank is. It changes from episode to episode. It's my week this week. So since we just got done talking about Madden 16 or Madden 17, excuse me, I thought I would ask what your favorite 2016 video game is so far. When I thought of this question, I immediately thought of Pokemon Go, just because I don't remember the last time that a game I got this addicted and it kind of changed my way of life. Like just, me going outside, talking to my neighbors and kind of walking around and stuff like that. But as a game, it's not that great. Like when you look at like the mechanics of the game and they put it out and it had so many problems and it was so ambitious and there was a ton of backlash. I mean, people love this game, but there was a lot of backlash. I didn't feel like I wanted to go that route, even though I did enjoy it and I still am enjoying it. I'm not playing it as much just because some of those problems are starting to kind of wear on me a little bit. The fact that it still doesn't have a viable tracking system, I think is ridiculous. So I'm actually going to go a different route, and I hope this doesn't come off as kind of a knee-jerk reaction, but I've been recently doing a series of Let's Plays for Playdead's Inside, and I really, really dug this game so far. I'm only like a little more than halfway through it, but it's just fantastic. The way Pokemon Go was really ambitious and it had a lot of problems, Inside is kind of the opposite of that. It's not super ambitious. It's kind of just... We review a lot of movies on this podcast, and I'm constantly talking about like, oh, well, this movie was 2 hours, and if they cut a little bit of fat, it would have been an hour and 40 minutes, and it would have been a lot tighter. That's how I kind of think of this game, is that there's almost no fat on it. It just, you're this kid, you get dropped in this weird kind of like dystopian world, and you kind of have to go through all these forests and puzzles, and it's just really weird. They don't explain anything. They don't waste any time with like the mythology or anything. It's just they drop you in. You have to go through this level and figure it out. And it's just so tight. Like it's just, I really enjoy how just like simple it is, but I mean, not simple as is easy.
Yeah.
Because the puzzles are kind of complicated. It's just so simple. Like they didn't bother wasting their time. They made the puzzles really good, and they made the graphics good, even though they're kind of still pretty simple. And it just looks really cool. It has an awesome score. So I'm just really, really digging this game, kind of for the opposite reason that I dug Pokemon Go.
Awesome, man. If anyone's familiar with my gaming habits, then my answer is probably not too surprising. It's Overwatch.
Okay.
I've played that the most out of any game that's come out in 2016, and I'm still playing it regularly, and I'm not tiring of it, which is pretty amazing considering it's a few months old and it's pretty streamlined gameplay. It's been such a fun multiplayer thing. It's something that my buddy and I play quite a bit every Monday when we Twitch TV it. So it's kind of helped us bond. He's in Seattle, I'm in Evansville, so playing that with him has always been fun. And then just diving into a new character in that game. Like I'll find a character I really like and I'll play them for a while. And if I get tired of them, I can switch to a character I've never played before and kind of get used to their skills and their abilities. And it's just a lot of fun, man. It's kind of like you said, it's very streamlined. I wouldn't say it's too ambitious because we've seen these game types in other games, but it adds a strategy to it that's so much fun, and it's a really cool game. I know that you haven't played it, right?
Nope,
but
not a single second.
But I'd still definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
I get to a certain point with those games. I feel like, I don't know if it's like this, but I know Call of Duty is a lot like this. It's the rich get richer, and you get to a certain point where it's like, I don't want to pick this game up because I know I'm just going to get slaughtered.
I don't feel like that, and maybe it's because my skills with it have been getting better as everyone else's are as well. So I've kind of stayed on par with everyone. But I think that if you jumped into it, you wouldn't just feel like you're getting beaten down every game.
Yeah.
Like it takes a little bit to learn the characters and learn which characters are going to be your forte. But after you do that, I mean, the characters are fairly simple. There's not a lot to them. So it's not like it's super complex. Like you could pick it up pretty quickly, I think.
Cool, man. All right. So that is episode 109 of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast. As always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. It's both at the Nerds Podcast. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. You can also vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. Please comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Nerds You're Looking For. You can also check out our Twitch channel, which, of course, Tyler just mentioned that he does a weekly stream Monday at 9 p.m. Central. Subscribe, rate, review us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, basically any good podcatcher you use, we're on it. You can also email us at thenerdsyou'relooking4@gmail.com. We will also be attending and showing our short film at Shocktober in Irvington, Friday, October 14th. Tickets are available at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also check out my stand-up. I don't have any shows currently booked, but I will be hosting the Gin and Comic open mic at the Boca Lounge here in Evansville, Indiana. That's the second Tuesday of every month. I'll be starting in October, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. If you've always wanted to try stand-up and you never felt comfortable doing it, definitely come out. Everybody's welcome. If you just want to check out stand-up, I'd appreciate you coming as an audience member as well. So that's the second Tuesday of every month at the Boca Lounge here in Evansville, Indiana. For Patrick Kuhn,
Tyler Hunt,
we are the nerds you're looking for. Take it easy, guys.
See you guys later.
What did you expect? Welcome, Sonny. Make yourself at home. Marry my daughter. You've got to remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land. The common clay of the New West. You know. Morons.